Let me tell you about the first time I used AI to create something very important. I had a proposal due, but I was exhausted. I'd been running around all day, sleeping, my brain was done. So I opened up ChatGPT and asked it to give me a draft for my proposal. Took what it gave me, I tweaked it, changed the tones, words, and structures, essentially made it my own. But something unexpected happened when I turned it in. I got so much positive feedback and it was incredible. On the other side of that, all of a sudden was a feeling that I had never felt before: guilt. I started to feel guilty. And there was a voice at the back of my mind asking, is that your work or did AI do that? Now, this is where a lot of us are today. We are feeling guilty and we're feeling like using AI is cheating. We're feeling like by using AI, we disqualify ourselves from taking the credit for our work. But here's the truth. The future belongs to the people who understand that AI isn't replacing them, but AI is multiplying them. Let's get into all of this. Hey there, welcome to another edition of the Men Rose podcast. I'm your host, Oba Okusanya, and I want to talk about AI, I guess. Initially, I was going to just talk about sort of the things that I use AI for, but I started to think about that, and I, of course, realized that that would be so specific of information because anyone who's not doing the things that I'm doing might not be able to relate. But then I decided, you know what, let's talk about the emotional side of all of this. And if you understand the human existence and human beings as we are, a lot of who we are is emotional. And, there's a lot of people talking about, yes, AI is going to replace you and this and this and that. And they're coming at things from a logical perspective, but I wanted to offer the emotional perspective to things. So let's get into it. The first thing I wanted to sort of point out that I've noticed when it comes to all of this today is that people are feeling guilty because they're using AI. They feel like, you know what, because I decided to ask ChatGPT to help me with this, uh, it's not entirely my work. So how do I take the credit for that? Because I decided to use Claude to develop an outline for an email. Now those are not my words, and I understand it because yes, it's never happened in the human existence that we have a tool or a technology that is able to do and offer as much help as AI is. And when I mean AI, I mean these large language models is what they're called, LLMs, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. You know, over in China we have DeepSeek, but we're not going to talk about that. So a lot of people feel like by using these tools, they're cheating. But the question I have for you is this. Do you feel like when you use um, Excel, Microsoft Excel, to do a bunch of calculations that you could have done manually, is that cheating? Do you feel like if you used Photoshop to edit a particular, maybe you have a picture you want to edit, you use Photoshop to remove a particular text or object in the picture, you used Photoshop to move that out of the way and to erase that? Uh, is that cheating? But all of a sudden, if a photographer takes a picture, puts it in AI, uses AI to do a bunch of the editing, which is not perfect right now, by the way, but all of a sudden, people start to say, "Oh, that's cheating." So, is it really cheating or is it not cheating? I personally don't believe that it is cheating. I personally believe that it is just people being resourceful, using the tools that they have available to get the work done. Right. So that's the first thing, is this idea of guilt. The second thing is that I've also noticed is that there's a lot of public backlash when something that's AI created or AI generated gets the reward that a human should get. And I understand this. Recently, I came across a video that talked about how at some point last week, the number one charting song on the gospel Billboard chart was an AI generated song. And a lot of gospel artists were mad and they were angry, and I understand it and I get it. Like, it's not even a human being, it's a machine that is on the number one spot. I get it. Like, it sets a dangerous precedent. But the other side of that is, for years we've done music production, and this was the sort of the same issue that came into play when people started producing music electronically versus playing the instruments and recording them. It's sort of the same thing. So I say all that to say this, that human beings, we will be fine, but we will evolve. And what that evolution looks like, honestly, if anybody tells you that they know exactly what it's going to be, they're wrong. But all we can do is make some guesstimations, right? As to what that future holds. And I can tell you without a shadow of doubt that AI is here to stay. So it's a matter of finding the best ways to incorporate it into our workflows and into our lives, right? The third feeling that I want to validate is the fact that, of course, these concerns about ownership are real. You know, you ask ChatGPT to uh, sketch you a drawing of a farmhouse, but to sketch it like Louis Van Gogh would, and it will actually deliver it to you in that style. But the sort of danger there is that's Louis Van Gogh's work, and that was his style of painting. And here you are now able to generate that in a couple of minutes, right? Who owns that? Is that still Louis Van Gogh's work, or is that your work, or is that the AI company's work? So I understand that those sort of ideas are still not very ironed out, you know, to a certain degree. And there's something that I want to point out, which is something that I don't agree with, is the fact that a lot of these companies are using free work that's on the internet to train their technology and their language models and all of that. And this is intellectual property that is being used. So what I'm hoping for is that there's some sort of system that is compensating people whose work is used at some level, at least, right? Because I don't think it's fair that the hard work of people and, you know, the blood, sweat, and tears and years of experience and years of refining their skills all of a sudden now is sort of taken and used in such a way that they don't even get any acknowledgement for. I think that's wrong, and that's where I'll put my own caveat. I think that's wrong. I think there should be some sort of mechanism or some sort of way where we're able to compensate people for using their original work and original ideas. Now, that being said, I also understand that a lot of these ideas are posted in the public domain for free. You know, like in the sense that if another person was to go copy that work, maybe they don't even necessarily have to acknowledge that person. So I also get that there's a little bit of tension there. And I feel like these are the opportunities for improvement, for governance, especially within the AI field as we go along, right? So I'm really excited about that stuff because I want to see how that stuff pans out. I sort of see the left side, the extreme, the left, the extreme right. So I sort of get both sides. But what I'm interested to see is how there's some sort of resolution, or if it even gets resolved, right? Because you never know the way the world works, right? So essentially, those three things are very valid. Those three feelings are very valid. The idea that using AI feels like cheating, the idea that there's so much public backlash, and because of that, maybe if you're creative or whatever you do, you try to stay away from using AI because you don't want to get in trouble. And then there's of course the third feeling where people are just concerned about who actually owns what I create, who actually owns, you know, what AI gives me and how all of that functions, right? But anyways, this sort of brings me into like the next thing that I wanted to really, really discuss in this podcast episode is this fear and this guilt that comes from using AI. And you know, a lot of people say, oh, like it's, you know, like you can't just have it do all of the work for you and then still take credit for the work, you know. But like I said at some point in this podcast is, do you credit other tools that you have with this level of sort of, you know, oh yeah, this tool is, yeah, you can't take credit for this work because you use the tool like this. Like, oh, instead of you using a stone to drive a nail through a plank of wood, you use the hammer. All of a sudden, you can't take credit for that. Like, maybe that's a bad example, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's a tool like any other. And with tools, we use them to our advantage. We leverage them because they allow us to reduce the amount of effort, but increase the quality of results, the amount of results. There's so much you can do by leveraging AI. Did you know that over 70% of you who watch this podcast are not subscribed? Some people have even told me they were shocked when they realized they were not subscribed yet. So if you're enjoying this and you're back for more, I would love for you to take 2 seconds and hit the subscribe button. It's completely free, and honestly, it's the best way for you to support all that we're building here at the Many Roads. So do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, join our community, and let's keep growing together. So for anyone who's sort of in that bubble of I'm afraid to use it, I want to mention 5 benefits that I've personally seen as I've used AI, right? So number one, it saves time. In the example that I gave, I was time crunched. I had a deadline, but I was also so exhausted. There was no time essentially, right? Having a tool like that you can rely on to get started quicker saves you time in the long run, right? So there's that. The second thing is that AI reduces burnout. Whoa, Oba, what do you mean AI reduces burnout? I want you to look at AI as an assistant from this perspective. It can help you do a lot of the work that you find tedious to do. So, for instance, maybe somebody who has a job where they have to sort of read through a spreadsheet and find numbers, or find a sequence of numbers, or a particular number that breaks a pattern, stuff like that. AI can now quickly help that person do. That's tedious work. And maybe that's the part of their job they don't enjoy doing. All of a sudden, you now have something that can help you a lot easier with that. In my personal example, as a project manager, I sit in a lot of meetings. And one thing I don't necessarily enjoy is being distracted in the meeting that I'm in and having to take notes, right? With AI, you're able to transcribe the meeting into text. The audio goes into text. The AI extracts the action items from the transcript, and also who's responsible and when they said they would complete it by. And at the end of my meeting, I have a full-blown meeting minute with agenda items and action items and tasks and all that stuff. And I feel like that's really helpful, because for me, if I had to focus on that while also leading the meeting, it could be quite challenging, right? So there's also that. It helps you avoid burnout by taking care of the activities that you necessarily don't want to do, right? The third thing is that it multiplies your creativity. I have seen this time and time again. You give, relatively to an extent, you sort of put your ideas into AI and tell it to improve it, and it can really shock you the results that it returns back. It helps you sort of look at things from a different perspective, especially when it comes to creative work, and helps you sort of consider other perspectives, and maybe gives you a fresh idea or a fresh take on the thing that you're asking it about. That's another bonus. The fourth benefit, in my opinion, is that it improves the quality of work. One of the best ways to use AI is to take work that you've already done and put it in, asking it to improve it. Of course, contextually, that could be in a variety of ways, but essentially asking it to improve it. By doing that, you're able to, like, I want you to think about this. You think about the fact that you have an assistant who has a PhD, right, in the thing that you do, and you can rely on that assistant to sort of vet your work and improve your work. That's amazing, right? So AI can help you improve your work. The last thing that I want to point out is this, and I feel like this is the most important benefit, is the fact that AI now levels the playing field. There used to be a time where a lot of industries had gatekeepers. And it wasn't because those gatekeepers were physical gatekeepers, they were knowledge gatekeepers. Nobody had access to the information that they had access to. And because of that, a lot of people struggled to find their way and find their footing into those industries. You know, um, with the introduction of AI, a lot of people at the tap of a prompt and a tap of a button can access information that in the past they would have had to go find in books, and have to go do some deep research and all these other things. So in my opinion, AI levels the playing field. And that's exciting because it gives everybody an opportunity to do whatever it is that they do at the highest level. And I don't know about you, but I'm committed to doing whatever I do at the highest level. So whatever tool I can use to make sure that I do that, I am going to use. AI levels the playing field. You can use it in such a way that, you know, you're competing with people around the world. And even if you don't have as much resources as they do, even if you don't have as much connections as they do, you're able to rely on that to sort of level the playing field. That's an important benefit. I don't think a lot of people talk a lot about that, right? Now, that being said, I want to talk about the other side of all of this. People are afraid, we've sort of established that people are afraid to use AI because of the fear of guilt and who owns this and ownership and all these other things. And I then walked you through some of the benefits, in my opinion. But what I want to introduce now to you is the new way of working. The new way of working. But before I talk about that, I want to acknowledge the fact that a lot of people feel like AI is going to replace their jobs. And I'll be honest by saying they're probably right. There's a lot of jobs that are going to be replaced by AI and AI agents and machine learning and all these other things. They're absolutely right. The world is evolving. It's the same thing with the Industrial Revolution. There was a lot of jobs that got replaced when steam engines rolled in. We're seeing the same thing over again. Of course, this one is on a larger scale and it's much faster than we anticipated. But the other side of all of that as well that I wanted to talk about is the fact that with the introduction of AI into like our lives, we are able to find a new way to work. And I'll explain this by saying this. There's the extreme of saying, oh, because AI is going to replace me at work, I'm not even going to learn it. And I hope nobody's there. Then there's the other extreme of saying, oh, I'm going to do everything with AI. The new way of work that I propose to you is instead to say, I'm going to take a hybrid approach. And what does that hybrid approach look like? That hybrid approach looks like you using AI for exactly what it is, a tool, using it as an assistant, using it as a co-strategist, using it as, you know, as a like a partner in the business to sound off ideas and bounce off ideas off of, using it as a sort of, you know, a resource within the company that does low level tasks and you know, things of that nature, repetitive tasks, using AI in that perspective, in that hybrid approach that doesn't rob you of your creative direction, that doesn't rob you of your ability to develop ideas and thoughts, and doesn't rob you of your ability to still be the main driver behind the decisions. That's the new way of working, right? So, from my perspective, and in my opinion, I humbly submit to you that that's probably the way we should be going about this. And if you go about it that way, if you look about AI in that light, in the sense that it's the assistant, in the sense that it's the strategist, the co-strategist, in the sense that it's the one that helps you validate some of these ideas, you don't feel as guilty as saying, oh, AI did all my work for me, right? Because now you know it's a partnership. And I feel like that's where the strength of all of this is in, at least for now, until some other wave of this technology comes out and now there's humanoid robots in everybody's houses who are actually doing the work. That's a different conversation. And we can have that conversation at that time. But for now, you can just use AI, the hybrid approach, the new way of working, essentially saying, you know what? It's a partner, it's a co-strategist, it's a good sort of platform to sort of sound my ideas to and get feedback, validate quickly, develop drafts and quick outlines and all these other things, right? You know, and you know, businesses are starting to even go a little bit more in depth. They're starting to use AI as agentic AI, essentially AI agents who specialize in doing one function. For instance, that could be in scanning invoices and getting the data out from the invoices and putting that in a spreadsheet for somebody to take a look at, you know, and then maybe there's another agent who essentially, once that information goes into that spreadsheet, looks at what needs to be paid and notifies the accountant, and all the accountant has to do is approve a payment. There's stuff like that, right? And once again, the idea is that these are tools, these are these are resources. They do not replace the intelligence of human beings, and the essence of humanity cannot be replaced. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some new technology that's going to come out in the next 150 years that's going to come close. But for now, human work can be replaced, and the job can be replaced, and the function can be replaced, but the human being cannot be replaced. And that should excite you, because it excites me as well. Because it lets me know that we are still needed. You are still needed. Like, this whole frenzy that a lot of people are in, rather than focus on, oh, AI is going to replace you, find the way to apply it to whatever you do today, and do it to the best of your ability, and know that, hey, you are still needed in this equation, you know? So, anyways, so let AI help you with the draining tasks, let it help you with the things that you don't really enjoy doing, and let it help you in situations where you kind of need a help to get started. Just some sort of help, like in my example, a draft. That use it in those situations. And if you're building a business, now is the time also to implement this into your business. Find business processes that you can sort of automate, and use AI to your advantage. But also don't forget that human beings are still the creme de la creme of creation, right? And there's no amount of AI that can sort of top that. Now, I'm not saying AI agents or AI LLMs can do some things better than human beings. Of course they can. They're machines. But I'm just saying there's some things that they will never do as well as human beings do. So, that being said, that's the end of all of this that I have for you. I want you to look at the new approach of working, the new way of working, the hybrid approach, using AI as a resource, as a tool, as essentially that's what it is. You know what I mean? So I'd love to hear from you. If you disagree, especially if you disagree on anything that I said, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to discuss this with you. Let's take it up in the chat, in a DM, whatever, in the comment section. Let us know, and let me know. I really want to hear from you. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. What are you waiting for? Over 70% of you who watch the episodes are actually not subscribed, which is wild, right? We want you to join us. We want you to join our community. We want you to be a part of all that we're doing. Well, till next time, it's been a pleasure hanging with you all. God bless.